Growing up, my father's love came with impossible demands and harsh punishments. But nothing prepared me for what happened when I finally needed him the most. You know how some kids grow up thinking their dad is a hero? That was never me. I don't think I ever felt safe around my father. Not as a kid, not as a teenager, not even now as a grown man with a house, a business, and more peace than I ever had in that house I used to call home. He was the kind of dad who measured love in grades and trophies. And even those weren't enough. Got a B+ on a test? You must have been slacking. Scored the winning goal? That should have happened last game. No hug, no praise, just a cold stare and a checklist of what needed to improve. I don't remember him ever saying, "I'm proud of you." I do remember the first time he slapped me across the face for talking back. I was 10. My mom. She was there, but barely. Like a shadow on the wall. She never raised her voice. Never defended me. Just watched. Like she was afraid of him too. Or maybe just too worn down to care. From the outside, we looked like your average middle-class family. Nice house. Dinner on the table. But that house was a battlefield with invisible wounds. And the weirdest part? As much as I hated it, I still wanted his approval. Like a dog crawling back to a hand that keeps hitting it. But I'll never forget what happened when I turned 18. It was college application season. I got into a decent state university. Nothing fancy, but I was proud. Until I showed him the letter. He read it. Didn't blink. "Good," he said. "Now figure out how you're going to pay for it." I thought he was joking. I waited for the smirk. For the "just messing with you. I've got it covered." But it never came. That same week, he handed me a cardboard box for my things and told me, "A real man doesn't wait around for handouts. Go be one." Just like that, I was out. I didn't even have a suitcase. Just that cardboard box with a few shirts, a secondhand laptop, and the kind of panic you don't really feel until the door shuts behind you. No money, no plan, no backup. I couch surfed for a while. Friends from high school who were surprised, but kind enough not to ask too many questions. Slept on floors, shared food, learned how to pretend I wasn't starving when someone offered half a sandwich. You get real good at lying to yourself when the alternative is collapsing. I applied everywhere. Grocery stores, warehouses, gas stations. Finally landed a graveyard shift at a 24-hour convenience store. Minimum wage, but I clung to it like it was oxygen. That job kept me from falling off the edge completely. I'd work until 6 a.m., nap in my car, then take online classes through the local community college. Barely functional, but I was doing it. My mom called once in a while, just to check in. Like, "Hi honey, are you still breathing? Good. Your dad's in a mood today, I better go." She never offered help, and I never asked. I think part of me still hoped she'd say, "Come home." I talked to him. We were wrong. But no, that call never came. I lived in that blurry survival mode for years. Got my associate degree. Transferred. Got scholarships. Took loans. Ate ramen. Worked 3 jobs, and lost track of birthdays. The dream that started with a box full of nothing slowly turned into something that looked like a future. And then, I made it. Not in a fireworks kind of way. Just one small win at a time. I graduated. Got hired at a mid-tier tech firm. Moved into my own place. Bought furniture that wasn't from a curb. For once, I could breathe. But success has this weird echo to it when you have no one to share it with. And right when life started to get easier, guess who decided to call? It started with a missed call from a number I hadn't seen in years, my parents' landline. I stared at the screen for a long time. My stomach twisted. I didn't call back. A week later, I got a text from my mom. "Hope you're well. Your father and I were just talking about you. We miss you." Miss me. That was rich. The same people who vanished the second I needed them, who tossed me out like garbage, were now missing me. I didn't answer right away. I stared at that message for days, cycling through 1,000 imagined replies, most of them too bitter to send. Eventually, I gave in to curiosity. I called. My mom picked up. Her voice was syrupy sweet, like she was reading from a script. "Oh, sweetheart, it's so good to hear from you. We were just talking about how well you're doing. Your cousin showed us your business's website. It looks very impressive." I could hear him in the background, pretending not to listen. She talked like nothing had ever happened. No mention of the years in silence. No apology. Just polite small talk like we were old friends catching up. And then came the real reason for the call. "You know, your father and I are thinking about retirement. The house needs some repairs, and medical bills, you know how it is. We were wondering if you could help out a little." Boom. There it was. No, I'm sorry for everything. No acknowledgement of the past. Just, we gave you life, now pay us back. I swallowed my pride. Maybe a part of me still wanted that pat on the back I never got. So I sent money. Not a lot, but enough to cover what they were hinting at. A couple hundred here. 1,000 there. Quiet, automatic transfers. I kept waiting to hear something. Thanks. We're proud of you. We were wrong. But those words never came. Just more texts asking for more. At first, I told myself I was doing the right thing. That I was the bigger person. I'd made it. They were aging. Maybe this was how I healed, by being better than they ever were to me. But it started feeling wrong. Every time I hit send, I felt smaller. It wasn't just the money, it was what it symbolized. Like I was buying a seat at a table they never invited me to. Like I was still that desperate kid trying to impress the man who never smiled at his report cards, never came to a single game, never said good job. I'd built something from the dirt, and all they could see was how they could benefit from it. Eventually, I told my mom, I can't keep doing this. Things are tight with the business. Her reply? Your father says you're being ungrateful. Ungrateful. That word hit like a punch. They gave me life, sure. But they also gave me bruises, silence, abandonment. I wanted to scream. I gave myself everything else. And still, I tried one last time. I called. I asked him, man to man, why he never helped me. Why he kicked me out, ignored my calls, told me to figure it out when I had nothing but a backpack and a prayer. His voice was as cold as I remembered. I made you strong, he said. You should be thanking me. That was the last time I called him. I stopped the transfers. I stopped answering texts. And for the first time, I felt like I was finally cutting the cord. Of course, that wasn't the end. It never is with people like him. After I cut them off, the silence lasted maybe 3 weeks. Then the storm rolled in. First, a string of passive-aggressive texts from my mom. Your father is very disappointed. We don't understand what we did wrong. Families are supposed to help each other. Then came the guilt-laced voicemails. My mom crying softly in the background, my father's voice in the foreground, half growling, half preaching. You think you're a man now? A man who turns his back on his parents? After everything we gave you? Everything they gave me? A roof until it became a weapon. A name until they spit it out like it disgusted them. Lessons, sure, but the kind you spend years trying to unlearn. Still, I stayed quiet. I didn't respond. I was done playing the obedient son in a story where I was only ever the villain in their eyes. But then, one day, I came home and found an envelope shoved under my door. No postage, no return address, just my name in that unmistakable handwriting, my father's. Inside was a single sheet of paper. No salutation, just this. If you can't show loyalty to your family, then don't bother calling yourself my son. We won't be needing anything more from you. You made your choice. That was the moment it all snapped into focus. It was never about love, never about family. It was about control. And when I stopped feeding it, they cast me out again like I was nothing. Only this time, I didn't feel like nothing. I felt free. That letter could have broken me 5 years earlier. Back then, I might have called them in tears, begged them to understand, offered more money, more of myself. But now, I folded the letter neatly and dropped it in the trash. No rage, no drama. Just this eerie kind of calm, like when a storm finally passes and you see the wreckage, but you're just glad it's over. That silence, the one that followed, wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I hadn't realized how much space they'd taken up in my mind. Every decision, every moment of doubt, every small victory immediately poisoned by wondering, would they finally be proud of me for this? Now, they were just gone, and I flourished. The business grew. I hired staff, expanded to a second location, partnered with a larger firm. For the first time in my life, I wasn't surviving, I was living, traveling, dating, sleeping without waking up in a panic. No more phone calls that made my stomach twist. No more shame that I couldn't name. And then, of course, the past came crawling back. It always does. 6 months of silence, and then I got a voicemail from my mom. Just her voice. No pretense. Your father's sick. The doctors say it's serious. He's asking for you. That was all. No guilt. No demands. Just facts. And I wish I could say my heart ached, that I felt the weight of those words. But I didn't. I felt nothing. I didn't call back right away. I stared at the voicemail. Listened to it again. And again. Not because I was debating whether to rush to the hospital, but because I was trying to figure out what emotion I was supposed to feel. Pity? Anger? Relief? But the truth is, I felt nothing. Like my body refused to generate empathy for a man who had spent my whole life grinding it out of me. Still, curiosity's a funny thing. After a few days, I texted my mom. "What's going on with him?" She replied almost instantly. She'd been waiting for me to break the silence. "He has congestive heart failure. It's not good. They're talking surgeries. Long-term care. He wants to see you." I sat with that message for hours. He wants to see me? Was this a deathbed guilt trip? A last-ditch power play? Or worse, a genuine attempt at connection? 30 years too late? Eventually, I replied, "I'll think about it." Her response came fast. "Please. He's still your father." That line set something off in me. Still my father. As if DNA demands devotion. As if genetics erase trauma. As if the bruises on my childhood and the wounds in my self-worth are supposed to be forgiven just because the man who caused them is now lying in a hospital bed. But I didn't reply. I didn't go. And a week later, another message came in, this time less gentle. "We always did our best. I don't know what you think you're punishing us for. Don't wait until it's too late." That was the moment I made my decision. I wasn't going back. Not to him. Not to them. Not this time. But I would give him something. The same thing he once gave me. Nothing. Weeks passed. My mother stopped texting. The silence this time didn't feel peaceful. It felt loaded. Like a breath being held. Then one night, around 11 p.m., I got a call from an unknown number. I let it go to voicemail. It was her. "He's home now. Recovery's slow. We have bills. He's still hoping you'll come by. I know he wasn't perfect, but he's still your father. We raised you. We kept a roof over your head. You wouldn't have what you have now if not for us." I listened to that message 4 times. It was the same story, just a different chapter. "We hurt you, but you owe us." And there it was, the truth they never said out loud, but always lived by. I was a product, not a person. An investment they wanted returns on. That night, I wrote a letter. Not to send, just for me. I wrote everything I'd wanted to scream as a kid. That he broke more than he built. That his silence hurt worse than his fists. That being thrown out didn't make me a man. I made myself one in spite of him. That I stopped chasing his love when I realized I'd never been anything more than a failed mirror of his impossible expectations. And when I finished, I sat back and read it. And something cracked open in me. Because for the first time, I didn't feel like the kid anymore. I wasn't trying to prove anything. I wasn't hoping he'd change. I was done. Done trying to fix what I didn't break. Done waiting for an apology that wasn't coming. Done playing the role of the good son in a play written by narcissists. But that didn't mean I didn't have a final act in mind. Because forgiveness isn't the only kind of closure. I didn't tell anyone I was coming. No announcements, no calls, no last-minute goodbyes. I wanted this to be mine. Just me facing the ghosts I'd spent years running from. One gray afternoon, I climbed into my car and drove back to the town I had sworn I'd never set foot in again. The same streets where I'd left as a kid, clutching a cardboard box filled with nothing but a few clothes and a hollow chest filled with broken hopes. Back then, I was fragile, scared, and utterly alone. But now, I was returning in a car I'd paid for with my own sweat and grit, wearing a suit that actually fit me for the first time in years, carrying a bank account that didn't scream emergency. I was a different person, on the surface at least. But the weirdest part? I didn't feel triumphant. No victorious soundtrack. No sense of "I told you so." Instead, I felt surgical. Cold. Detached. Like I was about to perform a necessary extraction, cutting out something that had poisoned me for too long. I didn't go to the hospital. My mother had told me he was home now, that the recovery was slow, but he was stable. So I parked my car 2 streets over from their house, not my home, never really had been, and walked the rest of the way. The weight of the past pressed down on me with every step. The place looked exactly the same. The cracked driveway with weeds poking through. The dead flowers she never bothered to water on the porch. The curtains in the window, yellowed, heavy, and blocking the light like a permanent shadow. I stopped across the street and watched quietly. No one saw me, and I didn't want them to. I wasn't here for closure or reconciliation. I just needed to see it one last time, to let it sink in. And then it hit me. I didn't need to walk up to that door. I didn't need the confrontation. I didn't need to hear his voice, or see his face, or sit through one more scene where he pretended nothing had ever happened. Because I already knew how it would go. He'd look at me like I was a threat to his pride, not his son. He'd mask his fear and regret with that cold authority he'd perfected over the years, acting like he was doing me a favor just by letting me back into his life. My mother would be there too, hovering quietly behind him, silent and complicit as always, holding on to her own regrets and fears. They hadn't changed. They just needed something again. That was the difference this time. So I turned around and left. No knocking. No letters. No last words. And as I walked away, something in my chest, something that had been tight and aching for years, finally loosened. I wasn't the scared, broken kid they'd thrown out all those years ago. I was the man they had never been capable of raising. After that day, I went fully no contact. Blocked their numbers. Changed my email. Set filters so anything from their address went straight to trash. I told myself if they really needed something urgent, they'd find a way. But the truth is, I didn't want them to. I was done giving them more access to hurt me. At first, it felt wrong. Like I was breaking some sacred code of family loyalty. Like I was the bad guy in the story they'd written. But then the guilt started to fade, and something better took its place. Clarity. I started noticing how much energy I'd spent replaying conversations that never happened, imagining apologies, wishing they'd just, for once, acknowledge how deeply they'd wounded me. But I finally realized they never would. People like my father don't see wounds. They only see weakness. And people like my mother? They survive by pretending the blood isn't there. So I gave up hope, and with it, I gave up the need to be understood by them. And life got better. I slept easier. My chest didn't tighten every time my phone buzzed. I stopped flinching when people used the word family like it was always a blessing. I started to build something I'd never had, a version of home that felt safe. One I chose, one I controlled. And every time I sat at my own table, surrounded by people who respected me, friends, real friends, I thought, so this is what they tried to keep from me. Love without strings, support without shame, home without fear. But here's the twist. Forgiveness wasn't on my menu. Not because I wanted to be cruel or spiteful, but because I had finally come to understand something crucial about myself and about them. I realized I wasn't interested in playing the victim forever, carrying around the weight of their mistakes like a badge of suffering. Nor did I want to become the kind of man who accepts abuse or neglect simply because blood ties exist. Family shouldn't be an excuse for cruelty or silence. Instead, I made a choice to reclaim my power, the power I'd spent so many years handing over to them without even realizing it. When my father's health began to decline and the medical bills started piling up, I found myself at a crossroads. But unlike before, when I might have scrambled to fix everything, to prove I was good enough, I refused to bail them out anymore. No more secret wire transfers, hidden away like dirty laundry. No more quiet sacrifices that went unnoticed and unappreciated. No more phone calls where I begged silently for a simple thank you that never came. So when my mother finally reached out again, desperate and pleading, I didn't fall for it. I met her desperation with blunt honesty. You wanted nothing to do with me when I was down, I told her. Now you want help? You should have thought of that before. Then came the call from my father. Furious, insulting, spewing venom like it would change anything. But this time, I did something I never thought I could. I hung up. It wasn't cruelty. It was self-preservation. It was drawing a line in the sand and saying, enough. And in that moment, I felt more like a man than I ever did trying to earn his approval, more alive than when I was begging for scraps of affection. Because revenge? It wasn't about punishment or getting even. It was about setting boundaries, protecting myself from the damage I'd carried for so long. And finally, learning that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away. After I cut them off completely, something surprising happened. My mother reached out, not with anger or guilt, but with something else. She wanted to talk. No more manipulation, no more demands, just a quiet, tentative conversation. She told me things I never knew, how trapped she felt, how afraid she was of my father, how she wished she had stood up for me, but didn't know how. For the first time, she admitted her part in the damage. I listened. It wasn't easy. Some wounds don't heal just because you name them. But it was the first real connection I'd had with my family in decades. I didn't know what to do with it. Part of me wanted to forgive her. Another part wanted to run. But I realized something important. I didn't have to fix their mistakes or carry their pain anymore. I could decide how much of them I wanted in my life. And for now, that meant keeping my distance, but leaving the door open. Because sometimes, healing starts not with grand gestures, but with small, honest steps. With the past finally behind me, at least as far as I could control, I focused on building something new. I found people who valued me, friends who celebrated my wins without comparing them to theirs, partners who respected my boundaries and didn't expect me to carry their emotional baggage. I realized that family isn't just who you're born to, it's who you choose to surround yourself with. I hosted dinners, birthdays, holidays, things I never had growing up, and it felt good. Sometimes, I still wrestle with the scars. Sometimes, the old voices creep in, telling me I'm not enough. But then I look around at the life I built, one filled with respect, love, and real support. And I remember, I'm not the boy who was thrown out with a cardboard box anymore. I'm the man who chose to rise anyway. If there's one thing I've learned from this whole mess, it's that love isn't supposed to hurt this much. You shouldn't have to beg for it. You shouldn't have to pay for it with your dignity or your sanity. Sometimes, the people who are supposed to protect you don't know how, or won't. And that's not your fault. It took me years to understand that approval from toxic people is like chasing shadows. True strength comes from within, and from the people who lift you up, not tear you down. So if you're reading this and feeling trapped by family who don't love you the way you deserve, know this. You're not alone. You deserve better. And you have the power to build a life that honors you. Looking back, I realized my journey wasn't just about escaping a toxic family. It was about reclaiming my identity, one that wasn't defined by their demands, their silence, or their pain. I don't have all the answers. Sometimes I still wrestle with anger, loneliness, and what-ifs. But I've learned to be kind to myself, to celebrate my wins, no matter how small, to surround myself with people who remind me I'm worthy, and most importantly, to know that my past does not dictate my future. If I could offer one piece of advice to anyone feeling lost or unloved by their family, your worth is not measured by their approval. You are enough. You always have been. And no matter how dark the road gets, there's always a way to build your own light.